take off. So it's an instantaneous launch window.
And that instantaneous launch window at exactly 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. You talk about catching up to the ISS, the day that we have and the time gets them there because we are in the same orbital plane. Our first two astronauts clear from the bio break. Zena Cardman, Mike Fink walking out and getting a look at their rocket, arm in arm.
It's a tall rocket, so it's hard to actually look up that. So you've got to lean back to be able to really see it.
You know what? It looks like Mike Fink, who's on the right-hand side, has a little more lean. What's interesting about him is he's wearing an upgraded suit called an R2. The Xena, let's go, just circling her arms. Let's just go.
Yeah.
But he's wearing an upgraded suit that SpaceX says has more mobility and more flexibility in it.
Well, he just demonstrated that.
Well,
I
he
guess.
sure did, didn't he?
Oh, no, Xena wasn't going to be outdone. No, it's awesome to see them, the excitement, the emotions that you feel as you're getting ready to do something like launch into space. Astronauts are humans. They feel all those same emotions, and so it's fun to see some of the excitement come out and on display.
Spillover right there on the launch pad, because there will be time for things to get serious once they get into the cabin. We turn on the launch escape system and start flowing propellants. But right now, just like you said, a nice moment at the base of the launch pad where those emotions spill out. But talking about the suit, Mike Fink is the only one who is wearing, you can contrast his suit with Xena's. It looks exactly the same, but it's constructed differently. It has a circumventual zipper as opposed to a vertical zipper. So, as you know, you got into your spacesuit like a onesie. His spacesuit has been upgraded and redesigned and has that circular zipper that allows 7 inches of flexibility in the suit so you can adapt it to different body sizes. Whereas the suit that you wore and that Xena is wearing and the rest of the crew has to be tailor-made, and there's not much adjustment on those.
Yeah, and it's also a demanding engineering challenge because it has to be mobile when it's unpressurized, but then when you inflate this, you also have to create a volume where you can be inside of this rigidized suit and be in there comfortably for hours if need be. And so that's a challenge to get a suit that does that. And so this next generation of suit is designed to be able to accommodate that wider range a little easier.
It'll be good for the astronauts, more comfortable, more flexible, especially, as you mentioned, when you pressurize it, which I guess it's like a giant, just human-sized balloon. This is a great shot from our flight operations team here at Kennedy. You can see the 2 crew members, somewhat small, getting ready to enter the crew access arm. And here they come, Commander Zena Cardman and pilot Mike Fink, getting ready to board Dragon Endeavour. And they are all smiles.
Ear-to-ear grins. It's awesome to see.
And what a beautiful vista behind them as you look out at the views of the spaceport. Mike just gave us the 2 guns. He's a character. Now, before they get into the spacecraft, some important business at hand here, wanting to make sure that no FOD or foreign object debris goes into the spacecraft. So the 2 suit technicians and the closeout crew there making sure that they take care of that, as well as this tradition right here, Nick.
Yeah. Got to sign that wall. That means you're going. And so every crew that's launched off of, commercial Crew Dragon launched off of 39A has been able to sign around that NASA meatball. And it's little moments like that that connect you with the legacy of the program and make you feel connected in a way where you understand, hey, I'm taking the next step, and it's an important step, there's a lot of people that got me to the point where I can take this step, and hopefully there's a lot of people coming after me that are going to continue
We're
to take
on
steps.
countdown. Crew are in the White Room, and this is on schedule.
You'll hear these audio call-outs from time to time from the crew operations and resource engineer with updates, and we'll pause to listen to them. Here are the two mission specialists now doing their rocket recline, looking up at their ride.
I think they studied technique from Xena and Mike because they had it down.
Seemed like kind of like a rock and roll kind of pose, didn't it? They will be riding the other elevator. This, of course, is Heritage Space Shuttle equipment. Those elevators, they used to just have numbers in them. And they're headed up to the 275-foot level, so 28 stories high are the crew on the left, all the way up at the top. The crew at the bottom now getting ready to ascend that distance. SpaceX changed the buttons inside a little while ago to have the top button for 275 say space. Yeah. Did you punch it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. I would like to go to space. Can you press space for it? Did your fellow crew member say, can space please? Can you press that button for me?
Make everybody wait uncomfortably long.
That is something you would do.
Maybe.
So Mike carefully getting into the spacecraft here, which that takes a bit of physical effort, right? You don't want to touch that seal because that is what protects you from the hostile environment of space.
Yeah, absolutely. That side hatch is going to stay closed the entire time you're in space. The next time you're going to open that is when you're bobbing around in the Pacific, and the recovery teams open it up to get you out.
And
of course, we're going to do leak checks on that here in a little bit, and it's important to be able to pass that. So you're hyper vigilant about hardware, and you mentioned that transition to seriousness as you're walking out that gantry. That's when you start to build and flip that switch in your mind of, okay, this is spaceflight hardware. This is the equipment that's going to keep me alive. You become that hyper vigilant person that you need to be.
Last two crew members there, the mission specialists, walking down the crew access arm. And the final two crew members, mission specialists Oleg Platonov and Kamiya Yui, arm in arm, thumbs up, ready to go. Split screen there, looking outside and inside the White Room. You mentioned the mission. This crew is leaving the ground with a baseline of at least 6 months, half a year in space, ladies and gentlemen. But they are being considered, and research and study and certification process is underway to expand this to an 8-month increment, 2 months longer. And so the plan is for the Commercial Crew Program, which is here at NASA, is to certify the spacecraft Dragon to be able to support them for a return 8 months later. We know they can live on station for 8 months. We've had astronauts live there for a year. But that is a long-duration space flight. And so the hope is that they certify them for 8 months and they can return 8 months later, hoping to get it by October.
Yeah, it's a sixth flight of Endeavour, and there's a lot of things that need to be looked into. From a crew perspective, the mindset has to be I'm going for 8 months, and then if it ends up not turning out that way, then that's I guess a pleasant surprise or unfortunate, depending on your perspective at the moment, because every day in space is a gift, and no, it'll be exciting for him. And like you said, we've had people up there. One of my crew members, Christina Cook, was up there a year. She launched with me on MS-12. So we know how to do it, and we know how to keep people healthy when they stay up there that long. It really comes down to expectations and expectation management with crew members as well as families, as well as the entire team that has to support this particular mission, because it's not just the crew and their families, but that entire support network is on call while they're on orbit.
That's an interesting point to think about. I hadn't thought about just how that kind of puts the family, as you mentioned, on call as that entire time. They have the moments where they get to connect with you via video phone and high-speed connection, but as long as you're up there, that they know that you're not here on Earth. You're in space, and you and your crew are being supported by this international laboratory, which has been doing it for 25 years come November 2nd. You're watching live launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's CREW-11 launch to the International Space Station. I'm Daryl Nail, and I'm joined by NASA astronaut and Brigadier General Nick Hague. We've counted down about an hour and 20 minutes so far, and we're cruising to liftoff. T-minus 2 hours and 44 minutes. T0 is 12:09 p.m. Eastern Time. A look at the signatures on the wall inside the White Room. And I would love to see if we could make out my co-host's signature there.
You
Nick
won't.
Hague?
You won't.
No?
I launched off Slick 40 over at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Indeed you did.
Yeah, so there's two lonely signatures over there on Space Launch Complex 40 right now.
That's right, and that was a late change, and my apologies for that, because you were initially supposed to launch off of 39A.
Yes, it was. We were the first to launch off. We were actually the first humans to launch off of that launch complex. The certification process, you mentioned the certification process for extending the life of Endeavour. Same kind of thing happens for the ground station as the launch complexes, and they were able to get that process done in time to support us to be able to launch off there. So it was a thrill to be able to be a member of the Space Force and launch off of a Space Force launch complex.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you're the only two signatures there.
Yeah. Well,
So,
hopefully
I mean,
we can
that's
fix that. Hopefully
yeah,
we can fix that.
Yes, absolutely. SpaceX has 2 launch pads here that are human rated for space flight, and that gives them great redundancy, great capability as well for NASA to have access to. Right now, the teams are working in parallel. The crew members inside Dragon getting settled into their seats that they will ride up into space, while outside, the closeout crew handles the matter of making sure that the seal's integrity around the side hatch is maintained. And then once they get them all settled and finish up their work inside with the crew, they'll depart. You can see number 22 still inside. The support crew will come out of the capsule, and they'll shut that hatch that you see right there, that side hatch. As Nick mentioned, when that is shut and they've secured it, they will leak test it to make sure it can withstand the rigors of the harsh environments of space. But in order to see and communicate with the crew that's inside, both of the closeout crew members here taking a knee.
Yeah, you can see a couple of the ninjas inside. They're, principally getting everybody strapped in nice and snug. Then they're also providing them with some of their personal equipment. You see the white satchels that they'll wear on their thigh. It's a place to put their tablet, as well as some writing utensils and some other things that they may need in terms of personal gear. And make sure everything's situated, because once you're strapped in, they don't want you coming out of those straps until you're floating around.
Certainly want all that in order and in place for the very exciting ride up into space, but it's also going to be a long one, Nick. This is a 38.8-hour phasing, which means from the time that they lift off to the time that they dock to the International Space Station, almost 40 hours in space. This is the longest ride to space so far for NASA's Commercial Crew program, flying the Dragon, which we are now in our 12th flight, CREW-11, the 11th operational mission, but we have to include Demo 2, which was the first test flight.
Yeah, 40 hours is a long time. So it only takes, less than 10 minutes to get to space. And then, this gets back to the question before of how do you catch up to the space station? Well, we phasing is the word that we use, but essentially in different orbital altitudes you move different speeds, and so we adjust the orbital altitude of the Dragon capsule to allow it to catch up to the space station, and in this case it's going to take 40 hours to do. Most of that time, a few minutes after they have arrived on orbit, they're going to be able to take their spacesuits off, and then essentially you're camping out inside the Dragon capsule, waiting for those 40 hours to elapse so that you can dock and open the hatch and get to work.
That's astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew-9, flew just a couple missions ago for NASA. Also flew...
SpaceX, Dragon, ready for sound check.
SpaceX copies. We are cleared. So, seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, comm check.
Seat 1, loud and clear.
2, loud and clear.
3, loud and clear. Seat 4, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check complete. Report when ready for seat rotation.
So you just heard from each one of the crew members on board as they went through all of their communications with the Crew Operations and Resource Engineer, otherwise known as the Core. You heard him communicating with each one of the crew members just now. As I was mentioning, Nick Hague flew 2 Soyuzes to space. The first one didn't make it to station, was an in-flight abort, came back down to the ground. You flew again the second time. On MS-12, you did make it to station. We are getting ready to do the suit leak checks, but first, we want to take some social questions as we go along. Nick Hague is our astronaut expert at the ready. If you want to submit a question, please do. We would love to hear from you. Just use hashtag AskNASA on the platforms that we have on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Twitch. And we have a question in on the lower right hand of your screen. Yes, Benny asks, what was the hardest part in becoming an astronaut?
I think that's a different answer depending on which astronaut you ask. There's so many things that we have to train to be able to do, whether that's, operate high-performance jets, aircraft, spacecraft, or learn the engineering behind all the systems on board of those that keep us alive, to the medical support that you might need to be able to provide because you need to be the doctor for the crew. But I think for me, the single most challenging aspect was learning a second language at the age of 38. And, you know, getting selected, and the first day on the job, I started my Russian language training because to be on board the space station, you have to be able to speak English and Russian, regardless of regardless of where you come from. So, you know, Kimya, native Japanese, but he has to be able to speak English and Russian. Right. And so it's amazing how difficult it is if you didn't grow up learning a second language very young, how hard it is to rewire your brain late in life.
Dragon, ready for seat rotation.
Copy, ready for seat rotation. All other teams are ready, so we will be initiating seat rotation now.
Copy.
And so you're about to see those seats articulate upwards. This is their entry position, but they will now be articulated into launch position so that they are resting on their backs and able to see those screens just above them, just above the heads of the pilot and commander. You can see Zena Cardman currently touching some of the buttons in the screen on just ahead of her, the heads-up display. And there they go. Getting some waves from the camera person who is on the launch tower right before they back out and shut the hatch. Boots up.
Yep, that position is important, because when you're launching, you want to make sure that that G-force is coming through your chest, because it's easier for your body to handle. But then when you're landing and the impact of landing, you want to make sure that you're in that more upright orientation. It's all for crew safety. It does allow them to see the displays better.
Dragon SpaceX, seats are in the launch position. With that, you are go for Section 2, suit leak check preparation.
And now that they can see those displays better, they can start operating them. And so Zena's going to step through suit leak checks here with the rest of the crew.
I did not know that they articulated them down for re-entry.
Yeah, after the main chutes open, then they will they rotate down.
How about that?
Actually, it's once you come back through a certain G level on re-entry, that's the trigger, and then they rotate, and then you
automatically come down?
Yeah, you get chutes and everything else.
Now that we have CREW-11 seated inside of the spacecraft, we want to go back and hear the story of your first spaceflight, Nick, which was, to say the least, an adventurous one. One that did not end with you getting to the International Space Station, but rather an in-flight abort. This helps us underscore just how important safety is in this moment as the astronauts prepare. So here you are, a number of years ago, getting ready to launch for MS-10, giving a wave goodbye. Talk me through your first spaceflight.
Yeah, you know, when I look at this picture, it almost snaps me straight back. It's a beautiful fall day in the steppes of Kazakhstan. You know, we're on, you know, the same launch pad there that Yuri Gagarin launched into space on. And so you feel that deep connection, that legacy I talked about, the human exploration of space. And so we're getting ready to walk up to the elevator. There's a few stairs. It's a turn back photo op and wave to the management that's taken you all the way up to the base of the rocket that's sitting there, that's white with frost because it's full of rocket fuel at that point, and you're on your way. So, I mean, it's everything you dream of. It's at that point, I've spent 40 plus years dreaming about that day happening, and then liftoff.
And
Copy, tear complete. You have a go for Section 3, suit leak check.
so as we listen in, the suit leak checks,
Go for Section 3.
they will pressurize the suits of the crew inside the cabin. Very important matter. As you're lifting off here, what are you feeling?
In many respects, the feeling of the Soyuz lifting off the launch pad is very similar to Dragon. The rockets are about the same size. You feel just kind of this slowly increasing pressure of being pushed down into your seat. The rumble and the kind of the subtle vibration as you're going, but it's pretty smooth. I'd liken it to being in an electric car and somebody just kind of smashing the accelerator, pushing you into your seat, and you're off. And it was, a smooth ride for the first 2 minutes leading up to the point where those external boosters you see on the base of the rocket are empty, and then they need to separate from the rocket.
And that's what led to this moment right here, Nick, when those boosters didn't do quite what they were supposed to.
Yeah, one of them didn't. They're supposed to propel themselves away from the center, the core stage. One of them that didn't do that and actually impaled the core stage, caused it to essentially disintegrate in that split second. So we're 30 miles above the Earth, going 4,000 miles an hour, kind of pointed straight up. As that happens, it tilts us a little bit, and in that second in which all that occurs, the launch escape system pulls us, my crewmate Alexei Chinin, the commander on the mission, and I, to safety.
And that shot is the shot before. If we look back to that one, it's blurry because that's a screenshot from just how violently things were shaking.
Yeah,
inside.
there was in that instant, the indications to us are a flashing red light, an alarm's going off, and then there's a little red indicator that says there's a rocket emergency, and then you're also being shaken kind of side to side for a second or so. And then it's peaceful, because at that point we're going so fast, we've come off, we're just kind of coasting uphill in this slow tumble to the edge of space. And I can remember looking out as we got to the top of that trajectory and seeing the dark black of space and the curve of the Earth below, and thinking to myself, well, we're not going to get there today.
Just not going to make it.
Yeah. And so, in the moment, you have those little moments where the reality of the situation pops out. Now it's, it starts to set in, okay, what do I need to do to survive? And that's get back into the procedures.
Right. And so that view we saw from looking up in the sky, your rocket is coming apart. You no longer can ride that into space. It's done. Now you're on the emergency systems. And you come down back to Earth. And that's you on the right, in the middle, right middle, hugging your wife.
Yeah.
And that looks like quite the deep embrace.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the moment when you're responding, the training kicks in, you're able to compartmentalize all of the emotion of the situation. It's in the aftermath of that, that's less than 6 hours after we had launched that we're back at the aerodrome there, and that's when the emotions, you're human, that's when it comes out. And Katie had witnessed all of that and gone through that roller coaster ride at the same time, along with my kids and my family that were all there, with less information than I had, because I was going through it. There was, probably 20 minutes where she didn't know what the outcome was.
Dragon, we see the same. Closeout team will perform final closeout steps and then exit the capsule. You can proceed to Section 4, side hatch close, and report when ready to close hatch.
And just a quick note.
Copy is proceeding Section 4, Wilco.
We are still tracking the operations inside the Dragon Endeavour that you see there. They are doing checkouts of the suits, pressurizing them, getting ready for launch. As we listen to a very important story that Nick Hague just told us about surviving an in-flight anomaly where his rocket came apart, but the launch escape system for Soyuz saved his life and the life of his crewmate and brought them back to their families.
Yeah, the way you phrase that's important. The launch escape system, the engineers that developed the escape system, the people in the factory that assembled it, all of these people that I don't get to meet or would not normally get to meet. The space program, the human exploration of space, is built on trust. Trust in that everybody who's got a job is committed to being perfect in that job. And it's not just the crew that rides on top of the capsule, but it's everybody. And you never know when your decision, your responsibility, your action is going to be the one that saves the day.
Absolutely, and that's why you often hear so many times the engineers uttering how important it is to get the job right, to do it right, to make sure everything is ready for launch. And this crew has their launch escape system. We will go through their checks, we'll check the health of it, and we'll also arm it for launch.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX, Dragon, loud and clear.
Core has you loud and clear. Tedra's comm check is complete. Stand by for comm checks with DC, MD, and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, DC on countdown 1, comm check.
DC, Dragon, loud and clear.
DC loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with MD.
Dragon, MD on countdown 1, comm check.
MD, Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear as well. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground.
You're listening to communication
Dragon,
checks
MD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
through each of the 3 paths to this spacecraft.
MD, Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Dragon, LD on countdown 1 with a comm check.
LD, Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear. Stand by for comm check on Dragon to ground. Dragon, LD, Dragon to ground, comm check.
LD, Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear.
Dragon, SpaceX, launch configuration comm checks are complete.
Dragon copies, and crew are ready for side hatch closure.
Copy, crew readiness for side hatch closure. Closeout team is taking final steps in prep for that closure, so stand by for that in a few minutes. The vehicle will then transition to pad hatch closed. Ensure all items are secure from now through launch.
Dragon copies, Wilco.
Those communication checks, Nick, were really important for each of the crew members to be able to speak to some very important members of the launch team.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the comm checks you've been hearing with Core, which is really the voice from the SpaceX control room to Dragon. But you've also got the launch director, the mission director in there as well. And then it gets more complex because you're checking multiple different ways that you're going to be able to get the communications there, whether going direct from ground to Dragon or whether using the TDRS relay satellites. So communications critical, being able to verbally talk, but then the other connection that you can't forget about is the telemetry and the vehicle communication down to the ground. Dragon is a highly autonomous vehicle and has a pretty close couple with mission control on the ground to be able to monitor all of that automation.
You're watching launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's CREW-11 mission to the International Space Station. Nick Hague, our astronaut co-host today, walking you through the operations, just told a very powerful and moving story about his first launch, which ended with a flight abort, but brought him and his crew members safely to the ground, back to his family. He launched again on MS-12, but that story brought forth a question on social that we want to take now. We're taking your questions live and bringing them to Nick, who's answering them as we go. So Oscar asks, Nick, you're one of the very few people in history who have ever aborted in flight. How did it feel as it happened?
Yeah. It's so it's we spend, Oscar, we spend so much time training for what to do when things go wrong. I'd venture that we spend about 95% of our training focused on what to do in the event that something goes wrong. And so the situation of the abort is one that Alexei and I performed in the simulator about 8 months before we launched and experienced it. And so there's the one time in the sim. It's a very short simulation. The actual flight was less than 20 minutes. The simulation's less than 20 minutes. But we had run those procedures. And the sum total of all of that training is that you get very disciplined at running procedures because you know that those procedures are the things that are going to keep you safe when things don't go right. So in the moment, there is the oh boy moment when it's happening. The alarm's going off, the lights flashing, everything's kind of shaking, and it takes you a second or two to fully process exactly what's happening. And then there's I had the realization that, if this was going to be a really bad day, it would have happened, so I've got a chance. So the best way to protect Alexei and I is for both of us to do our procedures and focus on those. And so you compartmentalize all of those emotions. You kind of set those to the side and you focus on doing your job. And so we run through the procedures and we talk with Mission Control in Moscow and surprisingly, I spent so much time in Star City training, that Russian that I was talking about being painful to learn, that is just naturally coming out because all of our communications are in Russian. And then it's not until you touch the ground, the search and rescue forces come and extract you. They were there within like 10 minutes. They come and extract us and pull us out onto the parachutes. It's at that moment when your body can relax, you can stop focusing on all the things you need to do to be safe because you know you're safe, and then that's when shock kind of rolls over you. And your body just tries to process everything that happened. We're human. You can't bottle that stuff up forever. And so it was you could hear the waver in my voice when I called Katie and on the satellite phone and said, "Hey, I'm okay." I actually had to leave a voicemail because she had her phone off.
Oh no!
But we have that voicemail, and I've been able to listen to it, and it's pretty amazing.
Wow! Thank you, Oscar, so much for that question, and thank you, Nick, for that beautiful answer. We are continuing to document CREW-11's steps through their mission operational timelines, getting ready for launch. You saw this closeout crew remove a protective cover around the seal. Now they are examining that seal and documenting, taking pictures of it, because once they shut that door, it needs to be as airtight as they can possibly get it, since you're going into the vacuum of space and it needs to protect all 4 crew members inside.
Yeah, a single strand of hair across the seal can be enough to cause it to fail the leak check. So it's got to be completely pristine. It's got to be pristine.
And we've had that happen in previous missions where exactly just that. A hair ended up on the seal, and once they did the pressure check, they saw it, opened it back up, found it, removed it, and then resealed it, and they were good to go for launch. And so there's a bit of margin in this countdown, and we're in that kind of flexible time right now where they have time to work through methodically on this procedure. Nick, we don't want to end the story with the end of MS-10. We want to go to MS-12, which was the next space flight, your next launch. Here you are now with a crew of 3. You said, "I'm going back."
Yeah. That's the job. I mean, we explore because it's important, And so that doesn't change launch to launch to launch. The mindset to get back on top of the rocket isn't any different the first time than it is the second time, than it is the third time. It's, why am I willing to accept this risk? Why is my family willing to accept this risk? And it's because what we're doing up there is so important. The scientific discovery, the learning about the human body and how we interact with the environment around us, and more about the universe around us, that's just so important. And so that's why you do it. And so this time, night launch. So I got a day launch and a night launch, a twofer. And
Lucky you.
It was beautiful. And you saw Christina had joined. She was going up for a year-long mission. And Alexa and I gave it another shot, and it was flawless all the way to docking. A spectacular flight.
And this was in 2019.
2019.
Just a little less than a year after MS-10 in October of 2018.
Yeah, 5 months. So we had the launch. So we had our launch abort, and then 2 months later. 2 months later, MS-11 launched, and they had fixed the problem. They diagnosed what the problem was with the rocket, and then 5 months later, we were on board. It takes a lot to keep the station going. We've been doing it for 25 years, and so that drumbeat of rotations of crews has to keep going.
Absolutely, and you fulfilled your role, and that photo we just saw was the completion of a successful mission to the International Space Station. When you returned from space and were being brought out of that capsule.
Yeah, it's ironic because where our abort landed was in the normal landing zone. We landed there almost a year to the day later in that landing zone. And so it was the culmination of a pretty interesting year, needless to say.
How about that? As you look around, right, and
Yeah.
go, I remember this place. But you felt a lot different.
Yes, absolutely. It's spaceflight changes your perspective. That overview effect that everybody talks about. The way you perceive the globe and how connected we are and just how special the Earth is. It's profound. I wish we could get more people up there.
I hear this time and again from other astronauts that
The more, we're almost up to 700 people now that have gone into space. I'd love that to be, 700,000 people. Even if it's for short periods of time. As a veteran that's done a suborbital flight as well as an orbital flight, It's all good.
I'm sure many of our audience, I know I would love to go someday, and that's, of course, the aim of the Commercial Crew program, is to make space more accessible to more people. And so, finally, your most recent mission, 2024, in September of that year, not too long ago, you launched back into space on CREW-9. This, of course, launched from right here on the Space Coast, Launch Complex 40, as you mentioned, the first